They thought the colony was gone forever. They thought humanity would crumble in silence. But what they didn't know was that the fire in human veins was about to awaken. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more thrilling adventures. The colony on Haven 6 had always been a symbol of human ingenuity, a small outpost on the edge of the galaxy where settlers lived, worked, and dreamed of a future among the stars. Every day, routine communications flowed from the colony back to Earth. Short updates about weather, crop yields, and the progress of scientific experiments. Messages filled with the mundane details of life far from home, but always reassuring, always predictable. Then, one day, the updates simply stopped. The first signs were subtle, a message delayed by a few hours, a minor glitch that communication officers brushed off as technical interference. But soon, the delays grew longer. The messages failed to arrive entirely, and a creeping worry began to spread among the teams on Earth. Something was wrong, though no one knew what. Technicians on Earth immediately ran diagnostics, scouring every signal and satellite feed for answers. Nothing indicated a system failure, no solar storms, no equipment malfunctions, nothing that could explain a complete blackout from a colony that prided itself on its redundant systems. The silence was total, unnerving, and deeply unnatural. Within hours, emergency channels designed to transmit in times of crisis were also dead. The colony had gone dark in every way possible. The first hints of fear began to take root among Earth's command staff. The patterns of the blackout didn't match any known natural phenomenon. And as more time passed, the realization sank in that this silence might be deliberate, that it might signal something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Families of the colonists began to notice as well. Many had grown accustomed to daily updates, quick video messages from loved ones, brief texts about life in the colony. And suddenly, nothing. Phones and feeds remained silent. Anxiety mounting as hours turned into a full day. The human mind, left to imagine the unknown, painted pictures far worse than any reality could contain. At the communications command, officers debated what action to take. Every suggestion was weighed with care, but no one could confidently claim to know the cause. The lack of information became a threat in itself. Each passing hour without news made the unknown larger, more terrifying, and impossible to ignore. By the end of the first day, Earth had officially declared Haven 6 missing, not lost, not destroyed, but unreachable. An entire human settlement, alive yesterday, completely silent today. This unprecedented event sparked discussions across governments, scientific communities, and military councils. Everyone speculating, everyone uneasy. Reports began to circulate of unusual energy readings near the colony. Subtle fluctuations in the local magnetic fields that did not match any known pattern. These anomalies were small, barely detectable, but their existence added to the fear that something entirely new and unknown had occurred, something that humans had never faced before. Despite the growing panic, some held on to hope. Rational voices reminded others that the colony had sophisticated emergency systems, that trained personnel might be sheltering or handling an internal issue. Yet deep down, a shadow of dread spread, because no one had expected a simple glitch to result in absolute silence. As night fell on Earth, the absence of messages from Haven 6 weighed heavily. The quiet was louder than any alarm, the unknown pressing against the minds of those who had always believed in human resilience and reason. People watched and waited, feeling the first real hint that something in the universe was bigger than their understanding, that something had chosen to challenge humanity in a way that would not be ignored. By the end of the first day, everyone understood one truth. Haven 6 was no longer just a colony. It had become a mystery, a warning, and the beginning of a story that would test humanity in ways no one had imagined. The sudden silence was not just a pause in communication. It was the spark that would ignite a fire in the hearts of those left behind, a fire that would rise with a determination born of fear, survival, and the unbreakable will of humans to endure. News of Haven 6's silence spread quickly through the interstellar human alliance, reaching every corner of Earth and its neighboring colonies. Governments issued official statements trying to calm the public, calling the blackout temporary and likely technical. But the calm words could not hide the growing tension beneath the surface. People were worried. Families of the colonists desperate. friends and colleagues wondering what could have happened to the thousands of humans living on that distant outpost. Analysts and scientists worked around the clock, studying every available piece of data. Every signal, every last recording from the colony was scrutinized, hoping to find a clue, anything that could explain why the colony had gone completely silent. Yet, nothing made sense. The patterns did not match natural disasters. No readings indicated explosions, asteroid impacts, or solar flares. Something unprecedented had occurred, something that defied all known science and technology. As the hours turned into a day, fear began to grow, quietly but steadily, across the Alliance. While officials maintained their public composure, private conversations told a different story. Experts admitted they could not explain the total communication loss. Some whispered about sabotage, others considered the impossible, that Haven 6 had encountered something entirely unknown, potentially dangerous, something that humanity had never faced. Families of the colonists were the first to feel the impact personally. Every missed communication, every unanswered call became heavier with worry. They gathered in homes, community centers, and public spaces, watching news channels, hoping for updates, praying for a sign. Their desperation grew with each passing hour. The uncertainty gnawing at their minds, the not knowing becoming unbearable. Across the Alliance, the media tried to maintain balance, reporting facts without fueling panic. But the human mind naturally fills the gaps in information with fear. Imaginations ran wild. Stories of abductions, attacks, and mysterious disappearances circulated on news feeds and social media, fueling speculation, even as officials urged calm. No one could ignore the silence. And the absence of news felt louder than any warning siren. Military advisors began quietly discussing contingency plans, preparing for evacuation, rescue, or even retaliation, depending on what the reconnaissance teams might find. No decision was made publicly yet, but the atmosphere behind closed doors was tense, the sense of urgency growing. Humanity was facing a situation that tested both courage and ingenuity, and the weight of responsibility rested on every decision made in those hours. Within the scientific community, debates raged. Some suggested the possibility of an environmental disaster unique to Haven 6, a sudden collapse of the atmosphere, or unforeseen contamination. But sensors had reported nothing abnormal. Others proposed the existence of an unknown life form or intelligence, something that could interfere with technology or communication. The idea sounding like science fiction, yet no theory was dismissed outright. Every day that passed without contact added pressure to the Alliance. Resources were mobilized to prepare for potential rescue missions. Ships were refitted with advanced sensors, emergency supplies were readied, and every available expert was consulted. The silence forced humanity to act, to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. And it reminded everyone of how fragile life could be on the frontier of space. Public fear and private anxiety grew side by side, but so did determination. Humanity had faced crises before, from natural disasters to wars, and each time they had risen stronger. This situation, however, was different. No one had faced complete and total disappearance without a trace. The silence of Haven 6 was more than unsettling. It was a test, a challenge to human resilience and intelligence. By the end of the second part of the story, the world had changed. Even those far from Haven 6 felt its absence as a constant weight. Every person watching, analyzing, or worrying knew one truth. Something had happened on that distant colony, something serious enough to silence thousands of humans. And humanity, despite fear and uncertainty, was beginning to prepare, to unite, and to rise to meet whatever awaited them. A rapid response team was assembled without delay, selected from the best soldiers, engineers, and medics the Alliance could offer. Each member understood the gravity of the mission, traveling to a colony that had gone completely silent, with no idea what they would find or what dangers awaited them. The Horizon Spear, a state-of-the-art frigate, was prepared for every possible scenario, stocked with emergency supplies, advanced scanning equipment, and weapons capable of defending against unknown threats. As the team boarded the Horizon Spear, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on their shoulders. Families waved goodbye from Earth's spaceports, unsure if they would ever see their loved ones again, and every crew member felt the tension that came with entering the unknown. Even routine pre-flight checks were performed with extra care. Each sound of machinery and each blinking light a reminder that they were humanity's first line of response to this mysterious crisis. The journey to Haven 6 was long, but even in the empty corridors of the ship, the team's minds raced with questions. What had happened to the colonists? Were they safe? Were they even alive? The unknown made every passing minute feel like an eternity. The officers conducted briefings multiple times a day, going over maps, sensor readings, and emergency procedures. Yet, no amount of preparation could remove the unease that settled in their stomachs. Engineers examined every system on the Horizon Sphere, double-checking life support, propulsion, and defense mechanisms. The medics reviewed medical protocols, ready for anything from injury to disease, while soldiers trained in combat maneuvers that might never be needed, or might be the difference between life and death. Every member understood that this mission could become humanity's first direct encounter with a threat they had never faced, and that knowledge sharpened their focus and determination. As they approached the outer edges of Haven 6's orbit, sensors began picking up faint traces of the colony's infrastructure, the lights of the habitat modules visible even through the planet's thin atmosphere. The sight was both comforting and haunting. A reminder that people had lived and worked here just days before, yet now all was quiet, untouched and frozen in time. The silence from orbit pressed down on the team, reminding them that nothing could prepare anyone for what they were about to face. Communication officers attempted to contact the colony again, sending repeated signals through all channels, but as expected, there was no response. The empty frequencies seemed to echo back a warning. Proceed with caution. The commanding officer reminded the team that their mission was clear: assess, rescue if possible, and report. But everyone knew that rescue might be more complicated than anyone could imagine. The descent to the colony's surface was tense, the shuttle navigating carefully between buildings and landing zones. Each member checked their gear multiple times, ensuring weapons, scanners, and life support were functioning perfectly. Even the smallest mistake could be fatal in an unknown environment, and the team moved with quiet professionalism, every action deliberate and precise. As the shuttle touched down on the surface, a wave of emotion swept through the team, part fear, part awe. The colony looked untouched, almost peaceful, yet the emptiness was palpable. Streets devoid of movement, doors open, and personal items left behind as if everyone had vanished mid-task. The team disembarked cautiously, scanning for life signs, environmental hazards, or anything that could explain the total silence. Every step on the colony's soil reminded them of the human lives that had been there, and the responsibility now resting on their shoulders. The Horizon Sphere waited in orbit, a silent guardian, as the team ventured deeper into the colony, knowing that the unknown could strike at any moment. The mission was no longer just reconnaissance. It was the first human stand against a mystery that challenged every assumption they had about space, life, and survival. The tension, fear, and determination mingled together as the team moved forward, each person aware that history was being written with their actions, that humanity's first response to this unprecedented silence could define the future. Every glance at empty streets, abandoned workstations, and quiet habitat modules reinforced the truth. This was not a routine mission. This was the beginning of humanity's confrontation with the unknown, and the fire in their veins burned brighter than ever. The Horizon Sphere's shuttle descended slowly toward the surface of Haven 6, its engines humming softly against the eerie quiet of the abandoned colony. As the team stepped onto the ground, the first thing they noticed was how pristine everything appeared. Buildings stood untouched, their metallic walls reflecting the faint light of the nearby sun. Streets were clean, equipment and supplies left neatly as if someone had paused work and intended to return shortly. Yet the silence pressing down on them was unnatural, almost suffocating, a reminder that no one remained to fill the space with the familiar sounds of life. The team spread out cautiously, scanning for any signs of movement or life. Their sensors detected only faint traces of previous activity, energy signatures that could belong to machinery or dormant systems, but nothing organic. Nothing moved, no vibrations, no heat signatures, not even a single pulse of life. The absence of life felt louder than any alarm. each empty building and silent corridor amplifying the sense of unease. The team's steps echoed on the metal walkways, the sound a stark contrast to the emptiness around them. Personal items were scattered across rooms and streets, a strange and haunting sight. A child's toy lay near a doorway, a datapad still open on a workstation, coffee mugs abandoned mid-sip. Everything suggested that the colonists had vanished suddenly, without warning and without time to take their belongings. The team could not understand how an entire population could disappear from a fully functional colony without leaving a trace. Each discovery fueled their growing apprehension, the unknown presence that had caused this silence becoming more real with every step. Environmental readings showed no immediate danger, no atmospheric collapse, no radiation spikes or chemical hazards. Everything seemed normal. Almost too normal, as if the colony had been waiting for life to return. But the lack of bodies and the total absence of humans told a different story, a story of sudden disappearance that defied all logic and experience. Soldiers kept their weapons ready, scanning every corner and shadow, knowing that whatever caused this might still be present, hidden, observing, or worse, waiting. The medics checked the abandoned medical facilities, scanning for signs of disease or contamination, but the sensors detected nothing. No toxins, no pathogens, no biological anomalies. The silence was complete, unnatural, and impossible to ignore. Engineers examined the infrastructure, the power grids, the communication relays, and life support systems. All were operational and stable, perfectly maintained, giving no clue to explain why the colony's residents had vanished. It was as if the people had walked out of the colony and simply disappeared into thin air. Footsteps took the team deeper into the colony, past rows of habitat modules, laboratories, and workshops. The emptiness grew heavier, oppressive, each building more haunting than the last. Every open door revealed an untouched interior. Every workstation told the story of lives paused abruptly, but the lack of any human presence made the scene feel unreal, almost dreamlike. The team exchanged uneasy glances, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Where had everyone gone, and why? Security cameras recovered from key points were reviewed on portable screens. The footage was disturbing, distorted at times, shadows flickering unnaturally across hallways, sometimes appearing to pass through walls. Colonists appeared briefly in the recordings, going about their routines, unaware of what was coming. The final clips showed startled faces, whispers, and then nothing. The abrupt ending of the footage sent shivers through the team, proof that the silence was neither accidental nor ordinary. The team moved methodically, careful not to disturb anything, knowing that evidence was the only key to understanding this mystery. They marked points of interest, recorded every observation, and maintained constant communication with the Horizon Sphere, reporting their findings as they moved, though every transmission was colored by tension and fear. The deeper they explored, the more they realized that Haven 6 was a place frozen in time, a colony caught between life and the unknown. As night fell over the colony, artificial lights illuminated the streets and buildings, casting long shadows that seemed alive. The empty colony became almost surreal under the eerie glow, each sound amplified, each silence more profound. The team gathered periodically, reviewing sensor data and strategizing, aware that their next steps could determine their survival. The desolate landing had shown them that Haven 6 held secrets far beyond human understanding, secrets that humanity had to face if they hoped to uncover the truth. Every step forward brought tension and anticipation, the fear of the unknown mingling with determination. The absence of life made the team more alert, more careful, yet more determined to find answers. Haven 6 was no longer just a missing colony. It had become a challenge, a puzzle, and a warning. The desolate streets, untouched buildings, and abandoned lives pressed on the team's minds, shaping their mission into more than reconnaissance. It was the first encounter with a silence that demanded action, courage, and the fire of human resolve. As the team continued to explore Haven 6, their sensors began picking up unusual readings that did not match any human or known environmental signature. Small traces of bioenergy flickered intermittently, patterns that were faint but unmistakable, unlike anything recorded in human databases. The team paused, reviewing their scans repeatedly, unable to make sense of the readings. Each time the sensors flickered, a sense of unease grew stronger. the team realizing that whatever had caused the colony's disappearance might still be present, watching, or moving in ways beyond comprehension. Security personnel checked corridors and rooms carefully, weapons drawn, scanning for signs of life, but saw nothing. Yet the sensors indicated movement, faint and rapid, passing through walls and floors as if the space itself was being crossed without regard to the physical barriers. Engineers attempted to calibrate the instruments, convinced it was a malfunction, but each recalibration returned the same result. The readings were real, but they described a presence that defied everything known about biology, physics, and the natural world. The team reviewed security footage from the colony's monitoring system, hoping to gain visual confirmation of the anomaly. The early clips were normal, showing colonists at work, talking, laughing, and moving about the station as expected. But as the day progressed, distortions appeared, shadows flickering unnaturally, sometimes elongating, sometimes moving in ways that no human or animal could. At first, the team thought it might be a technical glitch, but the distortions repeated in multiple cameras and multiple locations, impossible to ignore. One clip caused immediate alarm, showing a colonist walking down a hallway, her face pale, eyes wide with fear, whispering something indistinct into a communicator, and then a shadow moved across her, passing through the walls behind her. The next frame showed her standing still, eyes fixed on an unseen presence, as if frozen by terror. The final frame cut abruptly, leaving only darkness. The sudden disappearance left a lasting impression on the team, proving that the threat had already been among the colonists, silent, unseen, and deadly. The medics examined biological data stored in the colony, looking for any signs of disease, trauma, or abnormality, but found nothing. The colonists' health records indicated no sudden illness or epidemic, no sign of panic or struggle. Everything was normal until the moment the anomalies appeared. The absence of physical damage or disease suggested that whatever had affected Haven 6 acted in a way completely unlike anything humans had encountered. Invisible, intelligent, and deliberate, the entity or entities had taken the colonists without leaving conventional traces. Team members shared their concerns in low voices, each step heavier with tension. Every corridor, every empty room became a potential site of danger. The unknown threat was not just a presence, it was a mystery that could move, think, and act without warning. The team understood that observation alone would not be enough. They had to gather evidence, understand the threat, and survive encounters that might test their courage and skills to the limit. Engineers attempted to track patterns in the bioenergy signatures, hoping to map the movements of the unknown entity. The readings suggested intelligence, deliberate movement, and awareness of the team's presence. Each step taken by the humans seemed to be noticed, each scanner or camera potentially detected, creating an invisible tension that pressed on the minds of the team. Every sound, every shadow felt amplified, every empty hallway a potential trap. The team decided to review all recovered footage in sequence, piecing together the last known movements of the colonists. Patterns emerged, subtle but chilling. Individuals paused suddenly, glanced around nervously, whispered warnings to one another, and then disappeared from view. The shadows and distortions were always present nearby, suggesting that the colonists had sensed the threat but could not escape it, that the entity operated faster and smarter than anything the humans had prepared for. The commanding officer reminded the team to document everything, every anomaly, every sensor reading. Every piece of video evidence could be critical for understanding the threat. They moved cautiously, maintaining constant communication, knowing that any encounter could be dangerous, but determined to uncover the truth. The strange biosignatures, the distorted footage, and the unexplained disappearances made one fact clear. The silence of Haven 6 was no accident. It was the result of something intelligent, powerful, and completely beyond human understanding. By the time they had finished the initial analysis, the team understood the stakes. They were not just investigating an abandoned colony. They were witnessing evidence of a force that humanity had never faced before. Invisible, deliberate, and terrifying. The unknown presence had acted against the colonists, leaving no trace except fear, whispers, and distorted images. And the team knew that understanding this force would be the key to survival. The first undeniable proof was now in their hands, and it was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The team sent a priority red transmission back to Earth, detailing every strange reading, every distortion in the footage, and the unexplained disappearances they had witnessed. The message carried not only facts, but also the tension and fear that had settled over the team. Aboard the Horizon Spear, each member knew that the information they were sending might change the way humanity approached the galaxy forever. Earth received the transmission with a mixture of disbelief, concern, and urgency. Scientists, military leaders, and political officials gathered immediately, reviewing the data again and again. Each analysis confirmed the same unsettling truth. Haven 6 had not merely gone silent, it had been emptied by an unknown, intelligent presence, one that moved unseen, acted with precision, and left no conventional trace. This knowledge ignited a sense of alarm that spread through the Alliance like wildfire. Yet amid the fear, a determination began to form. For the first time in decades, humanity activated the Ember Protocol, a top-secret response plan reserved for threats that challenged existence itself. The protocol was more than military. It represented the unbreakable will of humans to survive and protect each other. To act, even when facing the unknown, was part of humanity's strength. And now, that strength was being called upon. Every branch of the Alliance mobilized resources, weapons, and personnel, preparing for encounters that might reach far beyond the borders of known space. Across Earth and its colonies, the response sparked both fear and resolve. People worried for loved ones still in space, but many also felt a deep, instinctive urge to stand, to fight, and to face the danger rather than run from it. The disappearance of Haven 6 had become more than a mystery. It had become a call to action, a challenge to human courage, ingenuity, and unity. The Ember Protocol brought together scientists and soldiers in a way never seen before. Collaborative efforts were launched to understand the alien threat, from analyzing energy signatures to developing new technology capable of detecting and countering it. Engineers worked day and night to adapt human tools for unknown situations. Medics prepared for injuries and biological effects never seen in human experience. Soldiers trained for encounters where conventional tactics might fail. Meanwhile, the families of the Haven 6 colonists waited anxiously, hoping for signs of survival. Their worry was met with solemn reassurances, but the truth was clear. Humanity had entered uncharted territory, and the coming days would test courage in ways that had never been imagined. The silence of the colony had forced a global reckoning, showing that despite fear and uncertainty, humans had a capacity for unity and determination unlike any other species. Every briefing emphasized the same message. Humanity would not bow, would not surrender, and would meet the unknown with fire in their veins. For the first time, the human race was facing an invisible adversary that could not be reasoned with, bargained with, or easily detected. And yet, every person involved understood that their response would define the future. The mystery of Haven 6 had transformed into a symbol of resilience, courage, and preparation, a reminder that humans thrived under pressure, that danger often sparked the greatest strength. The Horizon Spear continued to hover above Haven 6, ready to provide additional data. The team on the ground methodically recording and transmitting every observation. Earth's military strategists studied every detail, constructing scenarios, preparing contingencies, and imagining worst-case encounters. Each planning session reinforced the same truth. Humanity had survived countless trials, from natural disasters to wars, and each time they had emerged stronger. But now they faced something entirely new, a force that required more than experience. It required resolve, courage, and the determination to rise. Even in private, the team aboard Horizon Spear felt a fire growing inside them, a mix of fear, awareness, and determination that turned panic into action. They knew that if this threat had taken Haven 6, other colonies might be at risk. Yet they also knew humanity was not a species to be broken by absence, by silence, or by fear. Every preparation, every strategy, every precaution was an affirmation that humans would meet the challenge head-on. As Earth and its colonies prepared for what might come, a shared sense of purpose bound them together. The silence of Haven 6 had awakened something powerful within humanity, a recognition that survival required courage, unity, and the willingness to act even when the future was uncertain. The Ember Protocol was no longer just a plan. It was a declaration that whatever waited in the darkness beyond Haven 6, humanity would rise to meet it, with fire in their veins, ready to reclaim what had been lost and to protect what remained. Night had fallen over Haven 6, and the team moved cautiously through the colony's empty streets. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner a potential hiding place for the unknown presence that had taken the colonists. Soldiers held their weapons ready, scanning for movement, while engineers and medics followed closely, maintaining constant communication with the horizon sphere above. The atmosphere was tense, every sound amplified by the silence that surrounded them. The first encounter happened without warning. A flicker in the corner of the team's sensors, something moving faster than human eyes could follow. Shadows stretched unnaturally across walls, passing through barriers as if they were not solid. The soldiers instinctively raised their weapons and opened fire, rounds streaking into empty corridors, but the presence seemed unaffected, moving as if the bullets were invisible. Their sensors registered energy fluctuations that corresponded with the movement, confirming that this was no ordinary threat. The team realized quickly that retreat was not always an option. Every decision had to be calculated, every step carefully considered. The entity moved with intelligence, observing their patterns, anticipating reactions, and adapting to their tactics. It was not mindless. It was deliberate, and the humans knew they were being tested. Every encounter required quick thinking, coordination, and a refusal to panic, because panic could be fatal. Despite the fear, determination began to rise within the team. They remembered the purpose of their mission: to survive, to gather evidence, and to confront whatever had caused the colony's disappearance. Every member felt a surge of human resilience, the instinct to fight back even against a seemingly impossible adversary. Their fear was transformed into focus. Each step forward a statement that humanity would not yield to the unknown. The first clash intensified, shadows flaring and moving unpredictably, sensors struggling to track them. The team adapted, forming defensive positions, using light and sound to disrupt the entity's movements. Communication was constant. Quick commands and observations shared to coordinate actions. Engineers improvised devices to detect subtle energy patterns. Soldiers maintained steady fire, careful not to waste ammunition, and medics prepared for injuries that had not yet come. As the confrontation continued, small victories began to appear. The team managed to isolate the movements of the entity in certain zones, forcing it to retreat temporarily. The humans learned to anticipate its patterns, predicting how it would appear, where it would move, and how to counter it. Every successful maneuver boosted morale, proving that even against a superior unknown force, human ingenuity and courage could prevail. The night stretched on, the battle moving through corridors, open streets, and abandoned buildings. Each encounter was a test, a mix of fear, strategy, and raw determination. The team relied not only on technology, but on instinct, training, and the unspoken bond that comes from facing danger together. Every member understood that their survival depended on unity and trust, on acting as one, and refusing to break under pressure. In one narrow corridor, the team faced the entity more directly, energy readings spiking, shadows twisting and merging, appearing to strike at them from multiple directions. The soldiers responded with disciplined fire, engineers deployed temporary barriers, and medics kept everyone moving safely. It was chaotic, terrifying, yet profoundly human. Every member pushing beyond fear, demonstrating adaptability and courage that no simulations could have taught. By the end of the night, the team had endured multiple encounters, each teaching them more about the entity, its movements, and its intelligence. The initial panic was replaced with methodical action, each person aware of their role, each decision aimed at survival and learning. The presence that had taken Haven 6 was formidable, but humanity's ability to adapt, to fight, and to refuse submission was evident in every moment. As dawn approached, the team regrouped in a secure location, exhausted but unbroken. They had faced the unknown directly and survived, gathering critical data and experience that would inform future operations. Every member felt the same truth deeply. This encounter was only the beginning, yet humanity had already proven something undeniable. The aliens, or whatever force had claimed Haven 6, had underestimated the species they faced, the species that could fight back with courage, strategy, and an unyielding fire in their veins. The first clash was over, but the war for understanding and survival had just begun. The team knew that their fight would continue, and that humanity would rise stronger with every challenge, every encounter, and every step into the unknown. The team finally gathered what evidence they could carry and prepared to return to the Horizon Sphere. Every step away from the abandoned streets of Haven 6 was careful, measured, as if the shadows themselves might follow them. Sensors flickered constantly, picking up faint movements, energy traces that confirmed the presence of something intelligent, yet the humans had learned to adapt, to move with caution, and to respond quickly to threats. As they ascended back into orbit, the sight of the empty colony below was both haunting and motivating. The silence of Haven 6 had tested them, challenged them, and yet had strengthened their resolve. Every member of the team understood the weight of what they carried. Proof that humanity had faced an unimaginable threat and had survived, and that knowledge would be the foundation of preparation for what lay ahead. Transmission after transmission relayed the collected data to Earth, including sensor readings, footage of distorted shadows, and notes from every encounter. Analysts and strategists studied each detail, building maps of energy anomalies and movement patterns, looking for weaknesses, for any clue that could be used to defend against the unknown force. The team's first-hand experience added depth to the data, providing insights that no sensor or camera alone could reveal. Earth's leaders realized that Haven 6 was not an isolated incident, but a warning, a signal that humanity's expansion into the galaxy carried risks far greater than anyone had imagined. Military forces were placed on high alert, colonies reinforced, and plans developed for rapid response to any similar threats. The Ember Protocol guided every action, uniting scientific discovery and military preparation under a single urgent mission: survival and readiness. Across the Alliance, humanity felt a shift, a recognition that the universe was far larger, far more dangerous, and far more unpredictable than ever assumed. Yet within that fear grew a stronger feeling: determination, an unshakable belief that humans would not be passive, that they would act, adapt, and rise to meet the challenges presented by the unknown. Every city, every colony, every human being contributed to the sense that this was not merely a threat to one colony, but a challenge to the species itself. The team briefed officials and scientists, recounting every detail, describing the encounters, the strategies they had used, and the ways they had survived. Their words painted a picture more vivid and terrifying than any data set could, emphasizing the intelligence, speed, and unpredictability of the entity. The Alliance realized that technology alone would not be enough, and that human courage, ingenuity, and cooperation would be equally essential. Plans were immediately set in motion for future missions, combining reconnaissance, defense, and potential countermeasures. Ships were equipped with new sensors and weapons designed to detect and react to anomalies. Teams trained to anticipate movement patterns and prepare for encounters unlike any previous military or exploratory operation. Humanity was taking lessons learned from Haven 6 and turning them into preparation for survival across the stars. The team took a moment to reflect, understanding the gravity of what had occurred. They had survived the impossible, witnessed the unknown, and gathered critical evidence that could save countless lives. Each member felt a mixture of relief, pride, and anticipation, knowing that their experience would inform the future of human expansion and defense. That fire that had burned within them during the night on Haven 6 now spread across the Alliance, fueling action, preparation, and unity. Even as the Horizon Sphere carried them back to safe orbit, the team could feel the importance of what had begun. Haven 6 had become more than a missing colony. It had become a symbol, a reminder that humanity could not be underestimated. That when faced with fear, disappearance, or the unknown, humans would rise, fight, and endure. Every moment of survival, every tactical decision, every act of courage had proven that humanity's spirit could not be broken. By the time they approached Earth, the Alliance was ready, not to surrender, not to hide, but to act, to confront, and to prepare for whatever else the universe might send. Haven 6 had been a test, and humanity had passed the first challenge. The team's return carried hope, determination, and proof that whatever threat loomed in the shadows, humanity would not bow, would not flee, and would never give up. because in every human heart burned a fire that could not be extinguished, a fire that rose stronger with every obstacle, every challenge, and every encounter with the unknown. The story of Haven 6 ended not with defeat, but with a beginning. The knowledge, courage, and resilience demonstrated by the team ignited a movement across the stars. Humanity had learned that fear was not enough to stop them, that the unknown could test them, but could never destroy their spirit. And as preparations began for the next steps in the galaxy, one truth was clear. If any force believed humans would bow to silence or disappearances, it had underestimated the species that rose every time they were challenged, the species whose veins burned with fire and whose will refused to be broken